Amen. Does anybody have any easy questions?
Easy question.
So I take it that's oh, you haven't already got an easy one?
Oh, I thought that was an easy question
What about those other ones?
that I gave to Patrick.
He said he's answered them all.
I think one.
Did he? Okay.
You know the one?
About leadership?
Yeah.
Is it just that one?
Yeah, I think.
I
He
can't
said
remember
one, I
what-
only answered half.
Do you think he's answered all your questions?
I don't know what
He
I
doesn't
asked.
remember the question.
Okay. Right. Just read them out and say that they were answered or not.
Well, the other ones were the kingdoms that follow the chart at time of the end. So is Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and
Oh, we talked about that on the
yeah,
chart, yeah.
I answered that for you. Then Daniel 11, the king of the north and king of the south, from verse 1 to 39. In Daniel 11, how can it be the papacy if the papacy didn't exist yet?
We've got that. Did that one get answered?
Did it? I don't think he did. Oh, if he did, I've forgotten. I don't think he did that one.
I'll reiterate the
But
question.
the problem I have with that one is I have a friend in Indonesia that he won't accept that the king of the north is papacy because he goes with Uriah Smith. And he said,
Do you want to do that one? We can do that. We can do that one. That's easy to address.
yeah, in that.
It goes through the kingdoms in Daniel 11 and says where it's all different kings, all kingdoms all be the papacy.
Yeah, that's and also because I listened to one on.
He doesn't know that the north changes.
He sort of starts off saying, you know, that papacy wasn't in existence. So
He's following Uriah Smith's view.
Yeah.
Turkey, yeah.
Uriah Smith told you the king of the north
Well,
changes.
in the beginning of Daniel 11, the papacy didn't exist, so it can't be in there anyway.
Papacy.
Mm.
That's fine, but he knows he's talking about Greece, the king of the north.
No, he doesn't.
He can't follow Uriah Smith.
He probably just follows the bits of Uriah Smith or whatever, and he just says whatever suits him, I suspect. But he thinks he's a bit of a theologian anyway, but which is not a compliment, but I don't think he realises that.
So
We can do Daniel. We can do verse 40 and show you that it's king of the north.
Yeah.
Who that is. Do that. Or I can briefly show you like how you make some vague application in all the chapter.
Yeah.
You can do that.
if you're happy, I feel like maybe we're usurping the.
See what everyone else wants to do first. I think he picked them.
Perhaps just the other question was just the relevance of Herod's birthday
Yeah, he did that.
and
You did
the
that.
difference between the bride and the 5 wise virgins.
Yeah, he did that too. Yeah.
And the only other thing
The
was
bride to the priest and the wife to
the leadership.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you didn't ever. I was going to ask you to actually explain a little bit more about that because you were trying to tell me how because you were drawing the example of Elijah and Elijah and Elisha, I think, to the priests and the Levites as a type. Is that correct? Was him?
Yeah.
Was it you?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you came in at the end and started saying something as well. But you said something about there were other types that showed you that as well, because I couldn't quite work out how that worked together. You know, how they would be. Why are they different but they're the same?
What 2 things now?
You can have different symbols
Yes.
that mean the same thing.
But in that particular thing, you have, when we were back there the other day, you've got the priests and the Levites. You've got the priests coming in before midnight cry. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. It doesn't sound correct. And then after the midnight cry, you've got the Levites.
But okay, perhaps so the priests and the Levites are not the same as Elijah and Elisha.
Okay, so what
It's a different.
do you remember that little thing that came up because you're talking about one died and one because we were talking about the fact that some of them die, whereas some of them don't, and I was because in the way I was thinking, and you said you don't. I remember now. You said to me, "Well, what's your reason for thinking that?" But to me, it was more like
Logical.
yeah. To me, it just seemed like, "Well, what's your reason for not thinking that?" And
Let's just stop for 1 minute
yeah,
because we've got.
I don't want it. Yeah, that's
No, it's fine not to do that, but I don't think anybody knows what we're talking about. It's not I don't mind the question, but I don't think they know what we were talking about.
No.
So let's if it's a question, I don't mind addressing the question so everybody knows what the question is,
Fair enough.
because we kind of jumped about 3 questions.
Yeah, that's
sort of
true.
there,
We've been.
which is okay, but let's. So just don't know what the question is we want to deal with.
All right. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So
what's the
basically, we're on the line in our timeline. When you come to where we are now, more or less, where you're coming up to midnight and you've got the priests coming in.
Just tell me what the question is first.
Well, the question is, I suppose it revolved. There wasn't a specific one little simple question. It was really about the fact that I was trying to work out how some of the priests might be part of the 144,000, but some of them won't necessarily, and that some of the Levites will be and some won't
Okay,
be,
so
and some will live and some will
Yeah.
die. Because to me it seemed like,
so let's go with this.
yeah,
So this is something that we haven't studied yet. Is that from 9/11 to Midnight Cry, to the Sunday Law,
Yeah.
to the close of probation.
Mhm.
Let's go to Revelation 7.
I also understand how things repeat now, like, you know, the 1, 2, 3, and that actually helps me. So where are we going to go? Yeah.
Revelation 7.
What do you think about this?
You are.
We'll do this. The thing is, this was actually my notes. I'm just thinking if I should actually come out my notes and do this, because it won't be as good. Come out notes. It's chapter 7. After these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. The wind should not blow on the earth, nor the sea, nor the tree. So all I want to pick up on that thing there, it talks about the earth, the sea, and the tree. So there's 3 things: earth, sea, and trees. And it talks about the wind, and it talks about the seal. It talks about God's people. So we know it's talking about Islam, and we know it's talking about having received the seal, which is a 3rd angel's message. I say we know that because we don't really know that, but I'm just telling you that's what it is. And it's talking about God's people. And it's dealing with this issue of the earth, the sea, and the trees. So all I want to pick up from here is that you can see that there's this progression in 3 steps, starting with the earth, then the sea, then the tree. And the earth, the sea, and the tree are not talking about God's people specifically, but there's some progression of the sealing and the 4 winds that are going to be blowing. First they're going to blow on the earth, then the sea, then the trees. So you have to have some kind of understanding of what's going to happen in that, what it's talking about. So this is representing the United States and Europe, and here's the whole world of the nations. So you're going to see this progressive punishment of all winds that are coming as this warfare goes from one place to another and eventually it encompasses the whole world. So all I want to pick up here is that it's in 3 stages. 1, 2, 3.
That's Islam.
And the ceiling. And the ceiling. It's all. So let's pull out of that and let's go into Ezra. So in Ezra chapter 7. Ezra chapter 7, verse 7. Ezra chapter 7 is dealing with the year 457 BC, 7th year of Artaxerxes, and they're now going to come out of Babylon. This is the 2300 days. And if we read through the verses, I think Brother Patrick's already read through them. Let's go to Ezra 7. Go to Ezra 7. If we go to verse 9, it says, "For upon the first day of the first month began he to go up from Babylon. On the first day of the 5th month came he to Jerusalem, according to the good hand of his God upon him." So here's 457 BC. If we expand that out, we've got the first day, the 5th day, and we'll put the first day of the first month, first day of the 5th month, and the 10th day of the 7th month. It doesn't mention the 10th day of the 7th month in the chapter, but you can develop a logic to show that. And they come out of Babylon here. And they enter Jerusalem here. And what are they going to do? What are they doing as they go to Jerusalem? They're going to deal with something connected to the sanctuary. But right back here, we had Cyrus, Darius, and this is King Artaxerxes. The foundation is put in place here in the time of Cyrus, but by the time you come to Darius, the temple is all fully built. The temple is all fully constructed at the second way mark. But the problem is, they need people to run the thing. So part of his work of Ezra is he wants to collect enough people to actually make this sanctuary function properly. So this is the symbolic relevance of this story. I'm not saying they didn't have priests and people before doing that, because they did. But this is the story that's being brought to view here. We have to take it at a prophetic level, not just literally. So we're in verse 7, and it says, "And they went up, some of the children of Israel, and of the priests." So the priests are going to go, then the Levites, the priests and the Levites, and the singers and the porters. Now, the singer and the porter is a Levite. So here's the singer and the porter. They're just job functions for Levites to do. Then it says, "And the Nethinims unto Jerusalem," in the 7th year of Artaxerxes. So here you have the Nethinims. So you've got the priests, Levites, and the Nethinims. And if you do a search on who Nethinims are, it's these Gentiles who carry water and wood. So they're working in the sanctuary service, but they're not Jews. You have to have them because they're going to do all the manual work. So you've got these 3 groups. You need the 3 groups to actually make a sanctuary function properly. And our story, this story, is the story of the building of the sanctuary and making sure it all runs smoothly. So we've got this clue to begin with that it's going to happen in 3 steps. Then we've got this second clue here that it's going to happen in 1, 2, 3 steps. We've got these 3 steps. These 2 are Jews. So this is Hebrew and this is Gentile. Okay? So There's one more that we need to go to, and what is that? Go ahead.
How do you distinguish between the sea and the trees being Europe and the nation?
I didn't give you any defence of that. I didn't give you any.
I've heard that before.
But I think
Come across that.
you can demonstrate that.
Mm-hmm.
You can make the seas the nations, but as you just if you see the progression of it, it's going to end with all the nations, and it's beginning with the United States. All I wanted to show on that is this progressive.
Yeah.
It's in 3 steps. It's not so much
Yeah.
whether it's Europe or not. If we don't agree, that's not the point.
Oh, I've just never seen it.
It's just and there's these other 3 steps that I want to bring to view. And let's go to Amos. Amos chapter 9. So Amos chapter 9. And when you found Amos 9, put your fingers in Amos 9, because you want to go to Acts 15, and we want to do both of them at the same time. We want to do Acts 9 and Amos 9 and Acts 15.
Which one will you read first?
Amos 9.
Okay.
It's in your notes, by the way. Oh, you don't forget your page 9 in your notes.
Sorry.
Hang on. Page 9. It's page 9 in your notes if you want to just do it at your notes. Yeah, my notes, page 9 at the beginning. So it's in your notes if you want to look through in your notes. We're going to do it that way.
Yeah.
Page 9. Amos 9, verse 9. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve. Yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. So there's some shifting process going on, and there's going to be a separation, like you separate or sift corn, and it says not the least grain to fall upon the earth. So all the chaff is going to be lost, but the precious ones are going to be kept. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say that evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. If you read that, the evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. That was Isaiah 28, verse 14, 13, where it says, the scornful men who rule my people in Jerusalem, it says, when the overflowing scourge shall come, it shall not come to us. And it's just saying that evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. Verse 11, in that day, so what is that day? Sunday law. When it says that day, this is a Sunday law. Put that in your notes. In that day I will raise up the tabernacle. What is a tabernacle? The church building. So we're back on this territory here in Ezra. I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. What happened to Ahaz when he rejects the 25:20? It says, your house shall not be established. And who is the house of Ahaz? Trace it back, all the way through. We're going to get to David.
Because it was Solomon, David.
So it's going to go all the way back to David. So David's house is not going to be established because of Ahaz. But it says here, in that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. We spoke about the breaches somewhere else, I can't remember where it was. We mentioned about the breaches. So David's house is fallen. And who is David's house? It's Israel. It goes David, here's David, and went all the way down here, the 2, got all the way to Ahaz, all the way to Zedekiah, all the way right down to the end, to the Millerites. I've got Ahaz and Manasseh. It goes all the way through. I just went to I went to Ahaz because that's where we started, and went to Zedekiah was the last
one.
It goes all the way through Christ, into the Millerite history, into our history. And just about here, you've got 1863, remember? And he says, because Ahaz isn't going to believe, he's not going to be established, all of his household, and then in 1863, we're not going to be established either. when we establish. So right from the back here, beginning from this point here, what's happening to David's house?
Well,
It's fallen.
yeah, it's fallen, yeah.
So it's going to fall all the way along. But it says here, in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruin, and I will build it as in the days of old. So somehow or another, David's house is going to be raised up. But who's the king before David?
Saul.
Saul. And you know that there's a feud
Yeah.
between Saul and David.
Yeah.
Okay. You can demonstrate that Saul is the king or the leader of the SDA church, and David's just an upstart. When Saul is king, David's just a nobody. And then when Saul dies, what's going to happen? David's going to come to the throne. David's going to come to the ascendancy. So there's a relationship between Saul and David that we want to factor in when we come here. So at one level, David's house or his tabernacle has all been destroyed. And remember, it says the tabernacle of David. At one level, it's his house, his children. But what is the tabernacle of David? The tabernacle is a what?
The church.
It's a church. And who built the first church?
Solomon.
So often we say it's Solomon, but who designed it?
David.
David. Who financed it? David. He finances it, pays for it, and Solomon just follows the plan. And does he do a good job in following the plans? It's the worst job you could ever imagine. He messes it up from day one. Yeah. Oh, the building was fine because his dad designed it, but he did the worst job you could ever imagine.
He makes an alliance with other nations.
Before he even starts building, what does he do? He marries an Egyptian.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, when they built Moses' tabernacle, how was that financed? Free will offering.
Free will,
Yeah.
And those workers got paid a lot of money to do that.
Yeah.
They did it because it's all free will.
Yeah.
It's voluntary work.
Right.
You see how this was done? It was built through taxation,
Oh, okay.
and they got the best builder in the world, and he had a paycheck to go with that. He demanded an astronomical fee to build the temple because he was the best builder in the world. And you know the builder that they got? Do you know why he was such a good builder?
Yeah, because he was from Jewish line.
Because his great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather on his mother's side was the same person who received the Holy Spirit that built Moses' tabernacle. Same person. So that person who received the Holy Spirit, that ability to build went through his genes, through his children. Years and years later comes to Solomon and his great-great-great-great-grandson.
That's amazing.
He says, I've got all of these skills that I got from my ancestors.
Yeah, you can pay for it, Pete. Dear, oh dear.
And Solomon pays him. And then the next worker, the foreman, says, if you couldn't pay him that much money, I want to be paid too. The whole thing was just... I don't like Solomon.
Oh dear. No.
Okay, so this tabernacle of David is the one that's being destroyed. So we see these two things. So the tabernacle is destroyed, it's going to be rebuilt. The tabernacle of David becomes a symbol of the church. So the church is being destroyed. When did the church get destroyed? 1863, it got scattered. 1989, the church is going to begin to be raised up. The tabernacle of David is going to be raised now. That's what's being brought to do here.
Yeah.
And I will build it as in the days of old. I've got Acts chapter 15 in here, and I've got verse 16.
Yeah.
Verse 16 is the same verse as Amos 9:11.
Yeah.
Amos 9:11 is Acts 15:16. So it shouldn't escape our attention that the rebuilding of the tabernacle of David is going to happen at the end of the world is connected to 9/11. In fact, that's when it begins to get built at 9/11. It's even telling you the date. It tells you the date. Amos 9:11, the tabernacle gets built. Starting to. Acts 15:16. After this I will return and build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up. So all that's fine. Now go to Amos 9:12. So it's in the third box down, verse 12. It says that they may possess. So this is the reason that you're going to rebuild it. That they may possess the remnant of Edom and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith the Lord, which doeth these things. So all that's okay? So the reason why you're going to build this house, according to verse 12, is what? So that they may possess the remnant. So what it means they may possess, it's saying we're going to build a house, and the house is going to possess, or let me go through it. They're going to build a tabernacle, and the purpose of the tabernacle is to possess or to house who?
The remnant of Edom.
Edom.
And all of the heathen that were called by his name.
And all the heathen. But as I say, it says all the heathen that's called by his name. And what does Revelation 18 verse 4 say? Come out of her,
My people.
my people.
Yeah.
If it's my people,
Yeah.
it's called by his name.
Yeah.
And who is called by his name?
Oh. It's right here.
That's the 10.
That's the 10. This is the 10 tribes that are going to come back in.
Yes, okay.
And where they're going to live?
In the tabernacle.
David's tabernacle, because that's why it's being built. It's being built for those people.
Lost tribes.
So this temple here is a building, but what is the building? Church.
That's the people.
So you've got a church which is going to house these people.
Yeah.
But these people are called by his name, and his name is Israel, and Israel is his 10 tribes, and so they are also, when they come out, but they're still some kind of church,
Yeah,
they're God's
yeah.
people. So what you've got is, there was this house that was built, and it's not a very big house, because remember, each one of those stones is what?
Person.
It's a person. So the house is as big as the church.
Mm.
So when you're going to get these people who are going to come into the house, what do you have to do? You have to make the house bigger. So here's the house at this stage here, and then you're going to have to put an extension onto it. So here's this extension that they put on, and this is for Edom and the Gentiles.
Yeah.
So you've got a bigger house. The reason you have to have a bigger house is because each brick represents a person. So if you've got more people, then you've got a bigger house. So are we okay with that?
Yeah.
So here we've got one group and then the two groups. We've got two groups. And whose tabernacle is this?
David's.
David. So here's David's tabernacle, the Hebrews. And then it says the Gentiles, which are called by his name, are going to join. So you can see you have these two things here, and you've got this temple that's growing.
Yeah.
Let's go back one up. We're in we're in Acts 15 verse 17 now.
Yeah.
15:17 is the parallel verse to Amos 9:12.
Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
Yes.
So let's read verse 17. I'm going to read verse 16 first so we get the context. After this I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David. Here's tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up. And this is the reason, verse 17. We read the reason a minute ago. That the residue of men might seek after the Lord, comma, and all the Gentiles, comma, upon whom my name is called, saith the Lord, who doeth all these things. So, this tabernacle or temple, put it back up here now. Why is it built? According to verse 17 now. I'm going to build it so that the
Gentiles.
verse 17. So that
the
the residue of men. So
Yeah.
let's look at the residue of men. What does the word residue mean?
Leftovers.
Remnant.
The leftover.
Yeah.
or what we call the remnant. And who was the remnant?
7,800.
It's the 8th. So this tabernacle here was built to house who? The remnant. So this tabernacle started off that size. Then they put an extension on it, because this was for David, and this is for the residue. And then it says, the men who seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called. So here we are now on the Gentiles on whom my name is called. So you've got the Gentiles now. So here's your house, which had David and the remnant, and now who's joining it?
Gentiles.
So you have to make it even bigger. Now you've got the Gentiles. So first you have David, then David and the residue, and then David, the residue, and the Gentiles. So we saw, when you're building a tabernacle, how many people do you need? Priests, Levites, and Nethinim,
Yeah.
in those 3 groups. And now we're reading Amos and Acts, saying the same story. It says, you're going to get this temple, this tabernacle. First of all, it's going to be for David, then David and the residue, and then David, the residue, and the Gentiles. So you see, it keeps on growing, increasing in size. Where do you see a story where you see a structure that starts off small and begins to grow?
Bible.
Sorry? From the Bible, I mean.
Bible.
Sorry?
Bible.
Babel. Oh, but this is God's people.
Okay.
Positive one. As soon as I give you the chapter,
Um,
it's in Daniel.
Yeah.
Let's go to Daniel. Let me find the verse first, and then we'll see. Okay, so we'll do that in a minute. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2,
Daniel chapter.
and we're in verse 34.
That's what I said.
You said the same thing.
I said it was the Jews.
I didn't actually finish.
Because they say, who, in the very first temple, you got a deed, who's David?
You know how you explained
Because
through
you got
that
the
line
remnant
of
and the
history? Just, I
Let's
think
do that then.
you missed that.
We've got
I did. Yeah.
the priests, the Levites, and the Nethinims, and we've got David, the remnant, and the Gentiles. So you know these Gentiles are Nethinims,
Yes. Yeah. And the others, the priests and the Levites.
and you've got the priests and the Levites. So you've got the priests and the Levites. It's priests, Levites, and Nethinims. David's tabernacle, the
Okay.
remnant, the remnant or the residue join, and then the Gentiles. Smile. It's good. It's all good. Is that right? You look stressed. Okay. Daniel chapter 2, verse 34. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. So this is the bit I want to get to. Verse 35. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the earth. So you start off with a little stone, and it grows and grows and grows, and it becomes a big mountain. So the imagery that's brought in Daniel chapter 2 of this stone that's cut out of a mountain. It was cut out of a mountain here. Smashes the image, and let's put it here. It's going to smash the image. Then it grows into a big mountain. So that's what Daniel chapter 2 is showing. Amos 9, Acts 15, Ezra 7, and Revelation 7 shows this. It's always these 3 steps. It's progressive 3 steps. So we've done it with the stone becoming a mountain, and the tabernacle is really how to do this.
Is that the stone coming at 1989, eventually becoming a mountain up to the Sunday law?
It's not mounted at all until it's done its work.
Revelation.
Yeah. So once it smashes,
Which is the
because
Sunday
dismounted, it's going to go huge in size. Where's all that going to come from?
law. It'll have to come from everybody in the world.
Yeah, it has to come from here. And you know that. How do we know that?
Because it's the natural progression
From the imagery.
from 9/11 through to the Sunday law through to the close of Revelation.
From the imagery. So in verse 35, Daniel 2:35, it says, "Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, and the silver, and the gold." No, these aren't the numbers.
Okay.
These are just
Okay. So Daniel.
2:35.
Yeah.
Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together. What is that? The iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold. What is that? That's the statue. So the statue gets smashed, and then it says, and it becomes like the chaff. So what have you just turned the statue into? Okay. So the chaff of the summer threshing floors. So now you've got this statue, which is all good. Now it's changed the whole imagery. Is to a threshing floor. And what's the threshing floor?
Where they
You
take
separate
all the
them.
husks off the wheat and stuff.
You separate the husks
Yes.
from the wheat.
Yeah.
So you know that the statue, this image, when the stone hits it, it's now getting transferred into this imagery. Here's your floor, and here's your threshing instrument. And the threshing instrument's going to do what? It's going to beat this statue, but the statue isn't a statue anymore. What is the statue? It's pieces of grain. The statue's changed from that imagery to this imagery, and now the stone's going to hit the statue, and now this instrument here, the threshing instrument, is the stone, and the statue becomes this grain. So here's the stone hitting the statue, the threshing instrument hitting the grain. And the purpose of doing that is to what? Is to separate the
Two classes.
wheat from the chaff. So this wheat here, where did it come from? It came from this plant, and this plant was a symbol of this statue. So this is God's people in Babylon, and once it's separated, then the chaff gets blown away by the wind, and all you've got left is this leftover, the crop, seeds that you want, and then it switches over back to the imagery, and then it says the stone now grows into a mountain because you've got all the goods out of it. And why would we asking this question?
Yeah, who freestyling.
Okay. So we want to show that there's first of all, that there's three groups. So we can establish that there's three groups.
Those three groups you've drawn there are up to Sunday law, aren't they?
Which
you've
three
got-
groups up to?
Well, you've
One
got the
starts
priests
Sunday.
at 9/11. You've got the Levites or the remnant after the midnight cry, and then you've got the Gentiles after Sunday law.
Oh, okay. So here's our thing.
Actually, no.
So here you've got the priests,
Then you've got the Levites before. And you've got...
then you've got the Levites,
Oh, okay.
and maybe we want to do it this way. We've run out of time to actually do this properly. But here would be the Levites, and here would be we'll call them the Nethinims or the 11th hour workers.
Yeah.
So would you say that word, Nethin, in the Bible?
Oh, did we just read it? Ezra
Yeah,
7
Oh, I'm
7.
sorry, I missed it.
Ezra 7 7. It's mentioned in a couple of places. And let me check one thing else about the Nethinims. Go to Ezra chapter 8 verse 20. how many groups of people do you need to run a temple?
How many groups?
Yeah.
3.
3. When you've got all the groups there, is everything being restored?
Yes.
Yeah? And what's the number of restoration?
220.
220. So let's read chapter 8, verse 20. Also of the Nethinims whom David and the princes had appointed for the service of the Levites, 220 Nethinims. All of them were expressed by name. So you've got 220 Nethinims, which means by the time you've got the Nethinims on board, the temple has been restored. So that's the biggest temple. It's all done. It's all finished. So you're there once you get to the Nephilim. So once all of them have been counted, it says you knew every single one of them by name, 220 of them. Once you've got to this stage, the temple's fully built and it's all done and dusted. It's all finished. So here are these 3 groups. This is Adventism. And this is the world. Now for years, everybody, has said that first the church, then the world. And some people, a lot of people, have said that SDAs are the first fruit. And now people start getting a bit hazy on this, but we've kind of pressed ahead. So we're saying this is the first fruit, because you need the first fruit before you're allowed to do the harvest. I don't know if we know the sanctuaries, the festival services and the sanctuary service that goes with it. The crops are getting ready for harvest, and before you can do anything, you have to go into the field and you have to inspect that whole field and look for all the ones that are ripened first. So you've got to see the ones that are ripened. And the ones that are going to ripen first is the church first. So you pick up all those ones, you only need a handful of them, because you're going to go at a stage where there isn't too many. You're at the very earliest stage of cameras, there's only a few. And so you've got these shocks of wheat, put them all together, and then you're going to wave these as an offering to the Lord. Once that's done, then you've got permission to get the world. There's only a few here, and this is going to be a whole field's worth. So that's why you can see you go from the stone and it explodes into a mountain really quickly. So we've talked for a long while that this first fruit is Adventism, and that's all good, all correct. But then we began to notice things, and I'm going to give it from this perspective, but it doesn't get noticed from this. The place that you notice it, the simplest place to notice it, is how many groups of disciples did Jesus have?
2.
How many groups?
2.
2 groups. The first group was the 12, and the other group was the 70. So I know it went really fast, but this 12 and 70 becomes an important symbol. Elijah says, I'm the only prophet in the land. And what does God say to him?
7,000.
7,000. Who haven't bowed down the knee first. And he thinks he's the only one who's faithful. And we think we're the only ones who are faithful because we come to these meetings and we say everybody in the church is an apostasy. But what we don't know is there's 7,000 who haven't bowed down the knee. So 70 or 7,000 all become symbols of the same thing. And how many disciples in the upper room in that big room?
120.
120. So you can see you have all these multiple different numbers. Once Judas dies, his place gets taken by Matthias, and you've got the number back to 12. So 12. 12 takes you right to here. This church started off with this, and then it talks about the residue of men. They're going to join. At this stage here, the numbers begin to explode because there's 7,000 who are going to join. And so when these numbers start exploding in the church, in the book of Acts, the apostles can't cope with the pressure. So what did they do?
They get the deacons.
Deacons. They anoint deacons. And how many deacons did they anoint? You know what the number is?
70.
It's 7. There's 7 deacons.
Oh, okay.
70.
7 deacons. So what this is teaching you is you've got 77,000. All of these become symbols of the same period. Or you've got 12 disciples, 120 disciples, or even one disciple. It all becomes one symbol and then another. All of these are typifying the same symbol. And all of these are. And so what you can do is you can go into multiple stories where you've got 7s and 70s and 7,000, and you can begin to place these stories in here. But it begins with this one here. This is where your anchor point is. 12 disciples and 7 disciples, 2 groups. When you can see that, that begins to allow you to open up to the concept that when you come to the first fruits, how many groups should you be expecting? 2 groups. And in fact, you find the 2 groups. Because in the time of Christ, I'll just repeat what Brother Patrick taught you this morning, you find the men who are resurrected, and you find Christ. And he's the first fruit, and they're the first fruit. So what you're going to see is that the first fruits come in 2 stages. So that's one thing we want to pick up. 50 days later, you come to Feast of Weeks or Pentecost, and then you're going to do another feast, because this feast here that we're talking about is the barley feast, the beginning of the year. 50 days later, just under 2 months, you're going to get the wheat harvest. Now that wheat harvest, they're going to be doing it differently. These ones, you're not allowed to touch these grains. You just cut them and present them as they are. Virgin, don't touch them. The wheat ones, you've got to process them. You've got to beat them, smash them, hit them, separate all the chaff, all the sin, and get that pure wheat. Then you've got to grind them up. Then you've got to put some water in them. And then you've got to put some sin into them, which is leaven, yeast. And then you've got to bake that sin out of them. So there's a whole heap of imagery in that, and it shouldn't surprise you that they're going to make 2 loaves. So there's these 2 loaves, and it specifically says they have to be thoroughly baked, which means the sin is burnt out. And it's burnt out before you offer it. So you're going to offer it right here. So you've got these 2 images of first fruits happening twice. So that's one first fruit, and there's another one, and there's one loaf, and there's another loaf. And as I say, we have for a long time pushed all of this up and squashed it here at one event, the Sunday Law. Now we're noticing that there's 2 groups. There's 2 first fruits, 2 first fruits, and what we're doing is we're drawing this out and pulling it back. So I put it in the middle, but what it should really be is there's going to be the first fruits here, and there's going to be the first fruits here. There's the bread, and there's the bread. This is the 2 first fruits. So if you look at really far away, they all coalesce into one thing. But when you go into detail, they expand out, and you can see that there are 2 groups. So this is the 2 first fruits. You've got the priests, and you've got the Levites. And once these have all got their act together, then Tabernacle of David is sorted out, the breach is repaired, and then these Gentiles are all going to come in, according to Amos chapter 9. And so these 3 steps marking the progressive sealing. And there's a lot of information that's built into all of this. So I'm going to just pull that out, because at this simplistic level, it's the priests, the Levites, and the 11th hour workers at these waymarks. And I'll give you one more story for this. Yeah.
You know, with the 11th hour workers, I just had one little question about those. You know, when you read Isaiah 60, and it says, "Rise and shine, because the glory of the Lord is upon you." That's pretty much, you're pretty sure that's the end sign there, is it?
I think so, yeah.
And then you go down, and it says, "Who are these that are all coming as the clouds of doves," and all this, and it talks, and all the flocks of Kedan and everything. When you study them all out, they're all Islam. So is there going to be a lot of people from Islam that come in as 11-hour workers, do you think? Or
I wouldn't think that there shouldn't be. Islam is coming in. Islam, remember, when we talk about, in fact, let's do it from the other perspective. It says, all the world wandered after the beast. And I think people on this message think all the world wandered after the beast except Islam. but it's not. Islam is going to wander after the beast as much as everybody else.
Yeah, well, that's true.
So when we take this here as one first fruit, this is Adventism. We know from all of this group, many people are going to be killed, many people are going to die. We can see that from Revelation 20, verse 4.
So why, I don't know, I'm sorry, it's a stupid question. But how does God, what makes him decipher between one priest and another priest? That
Well,
one will die.
This is just SDA, not priest. This is just SDA.
okay.
What deciphers between one SDA and another?
Oh, well, we know that
It's your own
with this
choice,
message
yeah.
alone, that there's going to be a distinguishing, that like if you're a priest, you're going to have a different role
Yeah,
to
but we're talking
Well, that's
about
kind of
life
like-
and death.
And that's
Physically.
sort of why I'm asking
We're
this
just talking
question.
about Adventists.
Mm,
We're just talking about my brother and me.
yeah.
One's going to be laid to rest, martyred, and one isn't.
You point at me. There's a
No,
red
I was looking through you. I was looking through you, Brother Graham, because I'm behind you.
I don't mind if I get a red ring around my robe.
But it's probably going to be me. So how does God distinguish? I don't know. He knows everything.
I know it's a silly question.
He knows everything.
It's not our business.
Not really, but
It's not our business to know.
Yeah.
No, but
No, but
as a logical
I just
human
I still
thinking
wonder,
person,
Mm.
yeah.
if you're righteous and this person's righteous, you're both on the same plane.
Well, you'd think.
So,
that
but
there
this
must
one's
be
going to
something
die and
else.
this one's not.
Because the Lord foresees something in your character, like he saw in William Miller's character,
Laid him to rest.
that he can take pressure upon pressure upon pressure. But if you do one more piece of pressure, he's going to crumble.
Mm.
So he takes him out.
Yeah, and those other ones that Ellen White saw in
Yeah.
heaven, the ones that the Lord laid to rest to save them.
Yeah.
It's
So
all
it'll
about
be a
how much
mercy.
pressure you can take.
It'll be a mercy.
Yeah,
Mm.
And
that's what it's based upon.
yeah.
The pressure.
Mm.
And some people can take more pressure than others. But you've all got to withstand this pressure. But this pressure is escalating. And
So-
it gets a lot worse afterwards.
So the pressure at Sunday, Lord, is the bloodbath for the world, which I assume all of those die.
And
But-
us.
That's after Sunday, Lord.
Yeah, what he means is
Yeah.
all of those die, but only some of those die.
But you're going to call this the bloodbath.
Well, no, I was going to actually say there's a bloodbath before that.
There may be some killing, but there aren't that many people to kill back here. It's relatively few.
Only 144,000.
No.
No, it's more
No,
than
there's
that.
more than that. Otherwise you couldn't kill them.
Yeah.
So it must be more than that. But there's going to be some kind of death, but nowhere on the scale of here.
So is that between the midnight cry and Sunday, Lord? That has to be.
So when we define dying, we've got to think: are you thinking people are going to get martyred, or people are going to get laid to rest? Some people-
Martyred, laid to rest is, different I assume, because God's just putting you to sleep as opposed
As in you're
to
not
the world's
dying.
killing you
Something else.
because of your
But he's
faith.
putting you to sleep because you can't handle the pressure.
Yeah, but God would do that, I would assume, in some humane way.
Well, not necessarily.
I don't know.
Get hit by a truck or
It's
die
my
of
story.
cancer.
Let me.
Elisha has the most excruciating death.
Yeah, that's awful.
Then the disciples, they were all pretty horrific.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any. William Miller was extremely ill, especially in 1844. He had boils all over his skin. He looked like Joe. He was in a really bad state. His brain was weary. He couldn't function properly. I don't envisage in my mind laid to rest. It's just it's a kind of like a sanitary way of
Sounds
saying.
like putting a dog down.
You just go to sleep and you don't wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's going to be that.
No.
Might be for some people.
Ellen White says little children and old people. I think she said
Yeah.
in his mercy.
But we think that's going to be nice. I don't know what something could be like.
No.
So, I'm happy to separate them if you're happy to, but and there's going to be some carnage before that. But this is where it's going to be all. Most Adventists are going to die here,
Right. Along
this
with
time
the-
period.
Along with all the 11th hour.
All the 11th hour workers are going to die here, and here you get the death decree. The death decrees after the close of probation, but most of them have been killed here through various mechanisms, in various ways. You know, you get a big tsunami coming through Sydney, it'll take so many people out, good and bad, who are going to be laid to rest. So this doesn't just mean people are going to be killing. This is vigilante stuff that's going on here. But there's many ways to die. Natural disaster is going to take you out.
The vigilante stuff, I understand, is happening before the death decree because people preempt it.
Yeah, so I put that to be, all of this is all vigilante.
Yeah.
State sponsored in the sense that the state says, go ahead.
Go for it. Yeah.
Like the Philippines right now.
If you
Oh,
see
sorry.
that,
And so here's the death decree, and this is when your bread is sure, and you get fed by angels, whatever that means.
So that answers your question.
Literal.
I'm not going to.
Could be either
Not
or
like
both.
It's certainly not just literal because there's too much imagery. I'll give you the chapter that you need to go to study
I
that.
say bread will be sure. I'm thinking your spiritual bread will be sure.
This is
So you have
Yeah, your
to
spiritual
think.
bread's
First
gonna
Kings
be more
19.
important.
study
So
1
is that
Kings
for-
19. This is the story here.
Yeah, but when at the COP there, that Michael stands up.
Yeah.
So I'm envisage, rightly or wrongly, that could take anywhere from a week, 7 days to
What
set
could?
into after the close of probation.
To
That
what?
last bit,
To what?
to when Michael actually arrives.
When he actually turns
Well, the only reason I say a
Might
week
be a
is
year.
because the only reason I say a week is because we'll be a week ascending. That-
Will we? I don't know.
Well, that's what it says, and that was 7 days.
Yeah, but I don't know what that means. I know what Adventist
Is
say
it a
it
day
means,
for a year, or is it?
but I don't know what it means. It may not be 7 days. I think otherwise clear on that. And I don't know how long that's going to be.
No.
My hunch is not going to be 7 days. 7 days is not enough pain for people. You need to make them hurt a bit more than 7 days.
Yeah, with all the plagues. I think.
Yeah. So I imagine it being more than 7 days. Because you don't need any bread if it's for 7 days. Because you can fast for a month,
It's 3 weeks.
no sweat. Just have some water. 21 days to it, but you can cope for a long time. So it has to be more than a human being can cope for, I would suggest.
Where does that 1 hour that the paper
That's what we
The 1 hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is 12 o'clock. This is 11 o'clock. This is 9 o'clock. And this is 3 o'clock. So 11 minus 12 minus 11. Here it is 1 hour. Oh, actually, what 1 hour did you mean before I do that?
The 1 hour that the papacy rules.
Yes, it's this one here. It rules Sunday law.
And is it 1 hour or is it the equivalent to whatever the prophetic?
Okay, we're dealing with symbolic, not literal.
Okay.
Excuse
So
me.
it's neither literal nor symbolic. It's neither literal 1 hour or a prophetic hour. It's none of that, which is 15 days, I think.
Yeah.
Ah.
The Sunday law is not going to be done in 15 days, in 2 weeks. It's going to be 2 weeks just in America, 2 months just in America. This is going to be excruciating pain. During the plagues of Egypt, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Christ, God, is an interesting person because he's going to wait and wait and wait before he's going to send Moses. And what's he waiting for? What's God waiting for? Because many people are dying now in that history, and some of them are lost because the Messiah hasn't come. They're dead in Egypt, lost, and he keeps on waiting and waiting. He has to wait for a certain Pharaoh to come. And now there are 2 types of pharaohs in the world. There's soft ones and there's hard ones. If you're a soft pharaoh and the Lord suddenly turns all the rivers into blood, what are you going to do?
Surrender.
No.
You're going to say, I give up. Go. Straight away. So God waits and waits till he gets a hard pharaoh. Someone who's tough. And he's waiting for that Why? So he can punish them 10 times. Why does he want to? You know, he's
To
even
produce the glory and the to show the great hand of the Lord.
This is the glory of the Lord that's being exhibited. So he needs a human being that can stand against God. You have to have that, and it's a rare. Even in that generation, even with pharaohs, in all these these kings, it's a rare person that could take this much pressure. They have to wait and wait hundreds of years or whatever. He had to design everything, engineer it, look through the future to make sure you get the right king at the right time. Because this is like 1 in a million pharaohs to do this. I mean, no one's going to take this pressure. If you started having boils on your body and there's no source of relief, aren't you just going to say, okay, I give up? I mean, and you've got these stinging flies that are going to, and your children are ill, you're not going to do that. And everyone's telling you to give up. And he just says, I'm not going to give up. It's a rare person. I don't think we realise how bad and how hardened this Pharaoh was. If we really thought about it, this man was designed and engineered for this job so that God could glorify himself. And do you think that this story isn't this story? Yeah. So when you're going to get the people here, the kings, rulers and governors, or the Pope, or the President of the United States, all these people that are ruling here, they're not going to be pushovers. This is not going to be someone like Jimmy Carter. You know, a peanut farmer who's quite gentle and nice. You're going to get someone who's tough, who can take pressure. Because they're not going to buckle down easily.
What was the English Prime Minister before Churchill?
Oh, I know.
The one who said peace in our time.
Yeah.
He went over there and made a stupid...
exactly, yeah. Rulers like that
treaty,
are not the ones that are going to be in place here. You're going to have...
Yeah, that's him.
You're going to have hardened politicians who are not going to buckle down. This is not 2 weeks. This is an extended period. I'm not saying 5 years, but it's enough time to cause you pain. That you're going to regret standing against God. And also, it's going to teach us a lesson.
So you're human, right?
Because you know the consequences of sin. You need to feel pain before you can enter into heaven. So that God makes sure that
the cup.
You get
You
the
have to
point.
drain the cup and
The cup, I mean,
suffer the baptism, yeah.
heaven is cheap enough. So that's what
Yes.
we're saying.
Yeah, she said that, didn't she?
Yeah, we're not saying it now because there's no price to pay for it.
But
No, we will stay up there.
But yeah.
Mm.
I'm sorry.
I was just thinking with the glory though, the Lord wasn't just trying to just glorify himself. He was producing all that glory to consolidate the faith of the Israelites so that they would, have the faith to enter into the
Of course,
Kind
yeah,
of
there's no
would they?
negative. But God's doing a lot more than these are Bronze Age couple of Jews. This story. This is the great controversy. The Lord is teaching the whole universe what happens when you stand up against him, first of all, and what kind of people stand up against him. This is the product of 3,000 years of sin by about this time. 3,000. This is the product of Satan, Lucifer's kingdom. This is what you end up getting, a man like this, who doesn't care if anybody dies, all the animals are destroyed, he's wrecked everything, and he's still going to go for it. That's what his glory is, because he's showing you a prodigy of Satan against God. He's not going to win, but he's still going to fight and exhibit himself, and he doesn't care about anybody but himself. He doesn't even care about his children. His children are struggling with these plagues. He doesn't care. He just worries about his pride. So it's not just the Israelite that God is dealing with. This is the great controversy when you're showing his glory. You're showing what it means to be a God, how powerful you are. No one can stand against you, but not just that. It's also that you've got a Pharaoh, even though he's defeated, he still comes back for more. You go from the cross, Satan already knows he's defeated, but he's going to come back for more. You go to the lake of fire, just before, after the millennium, they're going to all be resurrected, and what's their job now?
They started
They're going to start a war.
Yeah.
And he already knows he's going to lose. He just doesn't care. He just wants carnage. He's not bothered about anybody or anything. If those people, if they really got clued up, they'd turn around and just kill him then, and say sorry to God and try and get into the. They wouldn't be resistant. But the problem is they've partook of his spirit. So every single one of them are mini Satans now.
Yeah.
They don't care about anybody except themselves.
And I want that city.
Yeah. Even when you know you're going to lose, you just think, I just want to fight because.
Yeah, because when the
I'll
Holy
make it
Spirit's
hard as I
when
can
the Holy
for you.
Spirit's withdrawn, the Holy Spirit's the only reason why all of us are in utter depravity right now. Yeah. So that's why they are like that. Yeah. He's got complete control.
That's all right. I just wondered if you were going to finish answering.
Try to. So we've got here that SDAs are going to die. Some are going to die and some aren't. So we know that. So there's going to be some that are translated and some that are dying.
And yet we have scripture like Psalm 91. So we'll just have to, we will pray those in faith and leave the consequences up to God.
So my question is really more about what's the difference between the priests and the Levites in relation to that, because obviously in the three up there you've got the house of David, or the house of David, who are the priests, or the correlating with the priests. You've got the remnant or the residue.
That's the house of David. It's not the house of David, all of it is.
Yes, sorry, but isn't who do the priests equate to? They equate to
It's this first step,
yeah.
but I put David here, but remember all of this is David,
Yeah.
just David's house is getting bigger.
Okay.
What we got to be careful of is the Bible wants to teach us truth.
Right.
And when it teaches us truth, it's going to use symbols.
Yes.
And what we must not do is put the symbols in priority.
Yeah, well, I didn't. It's not that I particularly want to. It's just that I'm just wondering what the relevance of it is, and maybe there is no relevance. I don't know, but it just seems to me if there's no difference between those two, what's the point of having them as different symbols?
Because if you have them as different symbols, so let me ask you the question this way then. In Daniel 11, you've got the king of the north, Medo Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, papal Rome.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the point of having them the same symbol?
Okay. Yeah. Because they're fulfilling a role.
So the sameness is teaching you something.
Yeah.
And if we do Medo Persia, not that, if we do a bear, a leopard, and a beast, and a horn, what's the difference between having that symbology that's different? Why make the distinction at one level and make no distinction at another level? Because you want to teach two different things.
Right.
So you know that this is going to teach you something, that there is some differences between them. So
Okay.
I'm not arguing that there isn't a difference,
Okay.
but it's not to say one is better than the other.
No.
It's just in sequence, one after the other.
Well, it wasn't that I was trying to say one is better at all, particularly. I'm just really trying to understand what
I
the
know.
significance
Yeah.
is between the priests coming in there and the Levites coming in there, but really they're all the same.
Yeah. So here's this king of the north analogy. This SDAs
Mm-hmm.
are Elijah. The ones who are going to make it.
Yeah.
The faithful ones. But Elijah comes in two steps. Elijah and John the Baptist. He's going to be translated and he's going to die.
That's the analogy that you were given
Yeah.
the other day.
So you know in Adventism you're going to get two groups.
Yes.
So we know that.
Mhm.
So that's one story about Adventism. And that story is about the translation and death of Adventists. This story here is a different story. It's not a story about who's going to die and who's going to be translated.
Okay.
This is teaching something else. This is teaching the progressive nature of the three steps.
Okay.
Not the three-step process, but 3 steps.
Okay.
So let me ask you this question then. Parable of the 10 virgins. Someone gives a midnight cry.
Yes, that's a good question.
And who's that?
Mm.
Bride.
Who
Sorry?
gives the loud
The
Yeah.
bride. Or the bridal party. The bridegroom.
when it says,
I don't think it is then.
when it
No,
says,
wake up.
behold, the bridegroom cometh, somebody's getting that cry.
Someone's calling it out.
Okay, so you're saying it's someone outside of the virgins,
I don't.
Well,
or,
know.
it's, or it is the virgins?
Well, it have to be because they wake up. They all asleep and they all wake up.
Okay,
So
so
somebody calls out.
The Millerites, they call
let me ask you another question then. So you've got the 10 virgins, which is the Millerites. 5 are wise, 5 are foolish. Okay, so who gives the midnight cry in Millerite history?
Samuel
Yeah,
Smith.
one of the wise.
Samuel Snow. So Samuel Snow is giving that cry,
One of the virgins.
and he's one of the virgins. So
It's
you
asleep.
know, back in here, that it must be one of the virgins that's doing it.
Even though they were asleep.
But then you've got to define what sleep is.
Yeah, true.
Because there's 2 different types of sleep, and the sleep doesn't mean just you're knocked out unconscious. This is symbolic that you've got to know.
Yeah.
One of the definitions of sleep is you don't study together, you do independent learning.
Really?
If you don't come together and study together, you're going to fall asleep. So that's one of the definitions that she says that happens in Millerite history. They stop studying together. Everybody's doing what's right in his own eyes by himself, and that will produce sleep. So you know what sleep is. Sleep is independent thinking, not coming together as a group. So that's the definition of sleep that most people wouldn't think about.
So is watching a presentation and studying that way, is that considered?
No, I'm not saying, I mean, I don't want to get fanatic about it, but the reason that we don't study together is because, no, let me say, forget us, the reason they're not studying together, let's go to Millerite history, and you can make your own applications of this, so I don't want to make an application, is that someone believes that the whole message is foolish, someone believes Christ is going to come in 10 years' time, that they've missed it by 10 years, someone says, oh, it's not 457, it's 458, and wait another year, and they can't get on with each other. So they just say, well, I'll study it out myself. Because you've all got different views. You're not prepared to come together and study together.
To work it out.
So we can put negativity on that, or positive, however you want to see it. There's these variant views that are causing the problem. So you can figure out how you want to apply that now. There's 2 different types of sleep. The 5 wise and the 5 foolish. These are waiting. If you're waiting, you're not sleeping, by the way. In, let me put this, anticipation that something's going to happen. So these people are like watchmen. They're looking. Let's wait and see what happens. We don't know the answer, but we can't wait to hear it. And they're sleeping doing that. So you know sleeping isn't this kind of evil thing. And these ones, the foolish, they're sleeping and basically they're not bothered. That's the sort of best way I can explain what their sleep was. It's in great controversy. You can find the passage. It talks about 2 different sleeps. They're not bothered sleep, and these ones ready, weighted, and girded with their armour sleeping. 2 totally different types of sleep. So if you can see that this waiting anticipation can easily fit Samuel Snow. Easily. So you get this. What you're dealing with in the parable of the 10 virgins, you have a symbol, then you have another symbol, and you get multiple symbols which represent the same group of people. This is the issue with the 10 virgins, or the 5 virgins, and the bride. Because the 5 virgins are what? It says, then shall the kingdom of heaven look like 10 virgins. And the kingdom of heaven, we defined in the earlier study, was the church. So you know they're the church, but then he says the bride is the church. So you've got 2 churches you're dealing with. So we could refine this thing and say one of them church militant, triumphant, or the priest and Levite. But at some level, they're both the church. The virgins represent the church and the bride represents the church. So you have to grapple with that. And if you can grapple with that, and Ellen White says they're not the church, by the way, they're gay, so they can't be the church, so you have to deal with that. It's not a big problem to say one of the sleeping virgins was Samuel Snow. I mean, that's not that difficult to cope with.
So who's the bride?
In that story, Parable of the 10 Virgins,
No, I don't like them. The virgins are not the bride.
she says the bride is the church. No, she says the virgins aren't the church because the bride is the church. You've got Bible verses showing that the bride is the church.
Right.
And so she's making a separate point.
that story.
for that story. So you have to make some kind of application to that, to factory what she's saying. But you can approach the story from a totally different way, and you know that the Bible teaches you, Matthew 25 verse 1, it teaches you that it's the church. So I'm not saying they're contradicting one another, I'm saying you have to factor both things in, depending on the point you're making.
I think you kind of answered my question when you said that it's not necessarily the story. That story is not necessarily about who's going to live or who's going to die. That kind of answers my question, I think. So, just to clarify, what do you think the main purpose of that story is? Just to be able to identify the different times when people come into fit the pattern.
These priests are dealing with people who are ugly. This is the time period where you've got ugly people. And the only security that you have is to stop looking at people and start looking at the Bible. And when you look at the Bible, you've got to figure out, are you going to tackle 4 books or 66 books? Because if you're 66 books, you need to have some kind of method, otherwise it's hard going and it's boring. So you have to have a methodology, and that's what defines this period here.
What do you mean ugly?
Oh,
Look at us. We're not nice to one another, we're disrespectful,
Well,
we treat each other well.
we all can see the world's going down. to
Lazarus,
the
the world.
No, I'm talking about us in this room, not the world. We're not in the world. Actually, we are in the world, we're not of the world. I'm talking about
Where
us.
Lazarus did the boils.
Yeah, we just don't look nice.
compared to the original copy.
We're Isaiah 6.
Compared to
before
where
we
you're
see
supposed
the-
to be today.
Before we see
Character-wise, you're talking about.
the Lord.
Symbolic. All symbolic.
yeah.
Everything's got to be symbolic.
In the mirror.
But every time we speak, I have to speak literally.
Yeah.
So we need these special filters. When I speak literally, you've got to say, he's symbolic, he's talking symbolic. If you don't do that, next week you're going to get tripped. And someone's going to come to you and say, by the way, let me show you this special truth that I've got. And unless you can decipher, you'll see that they're going to trap you, because they're going to use literal language, and so am I. And they're going to say, take it literally, but they won't tell you that, because you're just going to get sucked in. And that's how we keep on losing people. We keep on losing people because they say, we've got to take it literally.
What's the most simple way to just, just stop that right there and then when someone's trying to
Get a cricket bat.
prove something?
That's the simplest way. Keep on hitting people. Because there's no simple way to do this. That's symbolic.
I have a symbolic.
People just don't get it. And you know why? Because if it's literal, it's a sexy thing. It's exciting. We can say 15 days. We can know something. But if it's symbolic, you think, well, what do you do with that? Then you have to grapple with it, and it's hard work. You have to dig, and it's painful. It's not on a plate. That's why people just gravitate to the literal, because it's a cushy, easy life. Because you can watch a video and it says, oh, I understand it's all literal, but symbolic is a lot harder work. Because you asked me about that passage, I'm saying I've got no idea about Jehoshaphat. But if it was all literal, I could have told you, I could have just read it and said, I know what it means.
It's so much more interesting though.
If it's,
Symbolic.
it is. This is methodology, because we're not looking good. This one, this is easy. It says, look at the people, because they're so good. And these people are just going to pour in because we look beautiful. And they don't even have to worry too much about the Bible.
Yeah,
And I
it's
say that,
taken on the
I
force.
say that cautiously, They're going to have to obviously understand Bible. They have to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're looking at us.
They can see it.
We're
By
going to
looking
be,
at you,
we're
yeah.
And I
going to
keep-
be cry like Christ.
And I keep on telling you, stop looking at people. Stop looking at people. You better start. You've got to tell the people, look at me. Be as I am. Whatever you see me doing, copy me.
Like Paul.
That's why he says that, because what is Paul? He's in this history here. So you know what history he's in, because he says, copy me. Who would dare say that today?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Who would dare do it?
This way. Anyone who does
Yeah,
that,
we'll end
that's
up
what
I want everybody to follow me. Everybody follow me. Okay? Yeah, it's fine to do that, but I'm saying
No,
Who's
I'm
going to
saying
listen?
There's a few cult leaders that do that.
Yeah, there are.
And people do follow them.
Of course. That's been all through
But
history.
we're trying to get back to sanity, preferably.
Yeah.
So with that, so what do you think then is the difference? Yeah. Okay. What's the difference then? What's the difference with the priests?
The difference is
before? I understand why. I understand what you just said.
Okay.
But what's the point of having the priests at this time coming in? What's the purpose? Like if they're
You've got to start somewhere.
If the
Okay,
priests get to the
okay.
midnight,
Basically, you've got to start somewhere, and you're
Okay.
starting off with damaged goods.
And if it wasn't the priests, it would be the stones. Jesus would raise the stones up to do it. It's got to be
but priests
somebody
understand.
to represent. Yeah, well,
white
that's correct.
Yeah.
Somebody that the Levites can see that what you're talking about.
That's what I was going to say. The probation closes at the midnight cry for the priests. So the priests can then say, look at me. And then at the Sunday law, the priests and the Levites can say to the 11th hour, look at me. So, like you say, first fruits, look at me, the first fruits, they're nice.
Why is this? Because who is this person here? Christ. And who is this method here? Christ. It's all Christ. But Christ is multifaceted. He wants to teach you and me, the universe, many, many things. And some of the things we don't fully grasp why he wants to do it this way, because he can do it any way he wants to. But he says, we're going to do it, because he could have just made us look good to begin with, if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Said, look good, and then we'll do it another way.
But there's obviously a reason.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
So he says, I want everybody to follow me based upon the word.
Yeah.
Then I want everybody to follow me just by looking.
Based on testimony.
Yeah.
Just by looking at somebody
Yeah.
and say, I don't actually understand this verse. And you say, don't worry about it. Just take my word. So you've got to take Christ at his word, don't you?
Yeah.
Because there's so much we don't understand.
Yes.
And if I ask you about health reform or something,
Yeah.
these questions you've got no ideas about,
Yeah.
then why you can eat things, why you can't eat things, we just take it on faith. Because he says it, we do it. But this one, you've got a question. So we have to be trained in both of these things. The priests have just got it really good because they go through all the experience.
You know, it's funny. A lot of people say they don't want to be a priest because the Levites have got longer and the 11th hour workers have got longer. But
Longer?
I know. But
Oh, longer is away.
Yeah.
Oh, they haven't.
They've got longer before their judgment comes. But the way I see it is the priests are the lucky ones because we've had since 9/11 to, in this state that we're in, to get something right in our characters that for them it's going to be in a crisis. I hate that. To be going along like a Laodicean and then suddenly bang, crisis hits. And my character is in an absolute mess.
That's not. I don't think that model's quite correct.
No? Okay.
Yeah. Right now,
Mm.
today, those Levites have to be sorting their character out today. Yes.
The people that were translated, I can only think of three. Noah was, Moses wasn't translated. Was he?
No.
Okay. So he died and then
Enoch
was
and Elijah?
resurrected. Enoch and they typify some people who will be translated. So does that mean that they'll be good people walking with the Lord, have all the same sort of traits, I guess?
As them.
Yes.
When?
Well, you got there, some will be translated, some will die.
So the question is,
144,000.
I'm just wondering about the translation, what will happen around
Who's
then.
translated?
And yeah.
who's translated?
Yeah.
Adventists are translated. Not all of them,
Yeah.
but this select few.
Yeah.
Symbolised by Enoch, symbolised by Elijah.
And with the same sort of characteristics, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to look at all the characteristics of those men, and they'll be the definition of that.
No, it wasn't.
No, I know it's something sticky.
Yeah.
It's a definition of what the 144,000 will look like.
Okay.
One thing you know that there have to be Elijah.
Yeah.
So I'll guarantee you this: the only people who are going to get translated are the people on this message. Period.
Yeah.
Only you have to be on this message to be translated. Whatever other reform you've got you're a medical missionary, you're a health reformer, you're in country living, you can do everything perfectly correct and be saved. But if you want to be part of the 144,000, you have to be Elijah, because Elijah gets saved, and this is the Elijah message, so you have to have this message. And that is a painful pill to swallow for Adventists who have invested all their lives in a good proper Adventist lifestyle, and you come and tell them all of that isn't going to help you. All of that isn't going to help you. It's good, but that's not going to get you into translation mode. Translation mode, you have to be part of this movement and this message. And it's worse than that. You say, okay, well, I don't mind dying instead. I'll follow all my lifestyle and I'll just die. And then we're going to say, it doesn't matter, because even if you die, you have to still be Elijah, because Elijah dies. So whether you're going to live or die, you're going to have to accept this message. Every other Adventist, whether you're liberal or conservative, it's not going to help you. And just so that we're clear, we live as best as the next person, not trying to compare ourselves. We agree and we live and we practice the health message as best as we understand it individually. We're not trying to say don't live in a country, don't eat 2 meals, don't be a vegan, don't exercise, don't have a garden. All of those things we uphold and practice as best as our circumstances allow. So we're not trying to undo anything. I didn't catch what you said, sorry.
And don't wear logos.
Or eat chips.
And we don't eat chips or wear logos. In the past.
Yeah.
In the past.
With chips.
Talking about
Chips have got acrylamide in it.
you're talking about
But is that
takeaway
because,
chips, aren't you?
is
Like
that because
chips.
of the particular oils?
that
No.
they put them in? No.
Because acrylamide are when you get any starch,
Yeah.
any starch,
Yeah.
which is a fruit or a vegetable, and you heat it, oil or no oil, doesn't make any difference. The oil is a separate issue. You get any kind of fruit or vegetable which is a starch, and you heat it, whatever temperature you want to go to, over 150 degrees, thereabouts, you're going to produce acrylamides like crazy.
What are they?
So,
And acrylamides are one of the most potent carcinogenics that you put into
so
your body.
no more baked potatoes.
If you want the safest food, you steam it. If you want the safest food, steam, because it limits it to 100.
Or raw or dried. With it drier, you know.
Yeah, I mean
you
maximum
like-
temperature 100
Yeah.
degrees C. You in degrees C or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
100 degrees C is what the maximum you should take your food to if you want to live a really safe life. If you want to bake some food, you should do it carefully, occasionally. You start frying stuff, you get into a different territory with acrylamides. They just
So-
escalate.
Stir fries.
You've got best,
And they
better,
don't-
best.
Yeah,
You know,
it-
worse or
it
whatever.
may- how you do it.
You've got to ask yourself how you want to live. You've got to ask yourself how ill you are.
Interesting.
So you're getting into a raw food diet. With a
Well,
little bit
maybe.
of cook.
No, 100 degrees C. 100 degrees C, that's a boiled lifestyle. You can eat 90% of your food boiled, cooked, appetizing, no problems. No, it's not a raw diet. I just tackled one issue about chips, acrylamides. Then you've got the issue with, those cheap fats that they use, the damage that it does. It bends the chemical structure. I'm not even bothered about canola oil. You use any oil. You heat it, you bend its structure, and when you bend its structure, you take it in, it's not doing your body good.
What about coconut oil? Doesn't as much.
I agree,
At all.
the issue is as much. Coconut oil's got its own needs. We're getting into health, we don't, Patrick said we don't do health.
Yeah, that's
Coconut oil has got its own problems because it's the most saturated fat that you can take in your body.
Really? Oh well.
It's an ultra saturated fat. All we say is because it's vegan, it's a safe saturated fat.
No, there's more to that.
I'm sure there is.
Yes, there is.
I'm sure there is. So that's why I don't want to get into discussion about it.
Besides, they want
Because
prophecy.
we're friends.
We do.
We're friends, let's not break it.
Anyway.
I'd really like to ask a
No,
question
it's all
that,
good.
that I overheard you talking about that's probably got nothing to do with the 25-20. Is that alright?
About you. I think to ask a question.
It was to do with the Branch Davidians because I
Oh.
heard you say that they were they studied the 25-20.
Yep.
And what else did they study? What
Ezekiel chapter 9.
did they still exist?
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
Okay.
They're in your cities.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're at Colin.
Branch Davidians, they're the one that was killed at Waco.
The what?
They're in the
They're
churches.
called Shepherd's Rock.
Shepherd's Rock.
Oh, they should have wrong.
Yeah.
Rod.
There was that.
Oh, I think they're
Oh, okay, yes, I have heard.
And
No,
they,
because they're
the doctrine is
evangelists.
that they're going to go and kill all the
They're evangelists because they go into the churches. Sounds
Ezekiel
familiar.
9.
They believe in Ezekiel 9. Sounds familiar. In 25-20. Sound familiar. A couple of other things. They're the three that come to mind straight away.
Yeah, a little bit of a concerning
They have
thing.
prophets, sound familiar?
Sorry?
They have a prophet, sound familiar?
They're a prophet, and they do anything that the prophet says. Can't make any mistakes.
Well, that may not be quite so familiar.
Do you believe your prophet can make any mistakes?
Oh, it depends on which prophet you're talking
There's only
about.
one.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about, if they put up a present day person as their prophet, not looking back on Ellen White.
Yeah. I mean, they accept Ellen White as well.
Yeah, so
But-
I'm
just taking the
I'm
parallels,
talking
yeah.
about more like Jeff.
Oh no.
That's what I'm saying. I mean.
Oh, you could do that if you start
Yeah,
doing that.
that's
Then
what I was
yeah,
saying.
if you're going to start taking.
Then I wouldn't
So,
necessarily.
so they still believe in spirit of prophecy.
Extremely,
Yeah.
more than anyone else does.
Wow.
They try to evangelise our churches.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
How long ago?
Been going on for years, since I was a kid.
Oh, you mean not Telegraph Point?
You profile them. They're our arch nemesis, and they came first to pave the way. So that when we come second time and you start talking about Ezekiel 9, people say you must be a shepherd's rod because you're saying the same thing as them, and we're saying no, because we believe in symbolic,
Not literal.
and that's the only thing that separates us from them, basically.
Really?
Not much
Well,
else.
other than the whole lot of light that's beneath
Yes,
him,
yeah.
You know,
But it's about methodology.
And that's why.
How am I going to get my head around all this stuff?
Holy Spirit.
I told you how to do that.
One subject.
Yeah.
Just get one little point this week. Look at a Bible verse. Look. Go to your booklet and just read them and come to a nice passage. Oh, I like that passage. Then study that passage and find something in there. It's just easy as that. If you want a more systematic fashion, this is what I recommend you do. More systematic fashion. This is you go about it this way. We've already copied this down this week because Frank's already done what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Okay, you do this, this, this,
Oh, okay.
This.
I've never seen you do this.
that, and that.
And fill in the blanks.
Yeah, so does that time of the end, increase of knowledge, formalisation, empowerment, the foundations, work of the enemies, revival of the second,
Come here, Bubba.
empowerment of the second, third angel.
Quick, Dylan, I want to take a photo of this.
So midnight cry, close of probation, second angel's message, foundation, work of the enemies.
Does
The-
it always look like that? I mean,
Always looks like this.
That's
This is we call it like a template.
Is that you, Patrick? That's what you drew originally?
Yeah, the original
Yeah.
thing.
It should be exactly the
You
same.
need to do it for
Formalisation, increase of knowledge, time of the end. So what you want to do is get a piece of paper or whatever it is, draw this on here as big as you can get it. Maybe get a big piece of paper, put it on your wall. Draw this out,
yeah.
and then what you want to do is you've got a couple of options. So Brother Patrick, he may not have said it this time, but he's going to recommend you go to early writings page or chapters when you do the
Oh,
age
it's
messages.
55 through 61, I think.
Okay, so it's 55 to 61. That's
Chapter. in the last part of early writings, that's spiritual gifts or something.
Yeah. So it's only these pages. It's more
It's
than
about
that.
the Millerite history.
Isn't it more pages than that? That's only.
If you want to go down to
6
our
pages.
time, it's
Oh, I'm just thinking the first. I thought it was the whole first. Then it says another illustration.
yeah. This is these chapters, and then if you go
Oh, so it's
further,
6 pages.
you
It's
come
not
to our time, to the loud cry and
I thought it
Revelation
was more than
18.
6 pages.
You go further. No, that's chapters.
Oh, okay. So I thought that's not enough chapters. Okay, so what you want to do is
Yeah.
you draw this out on a whiteboard or a big piece of paper, as big as you can.
Yep.
Then you go to the book Early Writings,
Yep.
and you go to chapter 55 all the way to 61. So it's 55, 56, 57, 59, 60, 7 chapters. And those 7 chapters are going to deal not with every single one of these waymarks, but most of them. So what you do is, if you're going to do this on the board, get a photocopier or handwrite it, whichever works best for you, and get a little paragraph or a piece of the paragraph that you can identify, and get that and post it in its right place. So what you'll have is a cut and paste that's going to fill in about at least half of this, more than half, just from these 6 chapters, and underneath it you're going to cut a piece of paper out and do this, and there'll be one that goes here, and there'll be one that goes here.
What's the paper for?
That's
Early
the-
writings, go to this chapter,
That's-
photocopy the
That's
pages,
the template.
Photocopy those and white pages, yes.
cut out each of the individual paragraphs or the sentences, find out which one goes where, cut it out and stick it on your piece of paper.
On your template.
So you've got a whole list here. You can do this
Thank
electronically,
you.
wherever you do it.
Yeah.
So you've got your template, and then you get all of these 6 and you find all the waymarks that you can find on that. That should take you quite a while. Depends how long you do it. Once you've done that, go onto the internet or ask a friend to give you a PDF copy of it, which is not that difficult. I'll give you the name of the book. You can do this online. You probably can get a PDF copy of it, I think, nowadays. I'll give you the name of the book. Oh, I was going to go to Dante's book.
Oh, that okay.
Prophetic mission of mist.
So this is by Gerhardt.
Yeah.
Oh, you press that? Leave it. Leave it.
Take it.
Leave it.
Actually, that stuff I
No,
gave you
do.
today, my
Okay.
Press that.
Gerhardt Damsteed, and the name of the book is The Foundations.
Yeah, double G.
And T to B.
That's D.
It's double E.
Double E-G-T.
T.
T.
Foundations of the Seventh-day Adventist.
Yeah, let's do that again.
Adventist or Advent. Adventist message
No.
and mission.
No, leave him
Okay,
alone.
this book, I think from memory, is divided into 2 sections. So you don't have to read the whole book. So you want the first half of the section, the first half of the book. So it's Gerhard Damsteed's book, Foundations of the Seventh-day Message and Mission. You only need the first half of the book, and it's divided into that section. Do the same with that book. Photocopy it, get out all the sections, and put them here. By the time you've done this one, you're gonna run out of room, because this is gonna be a really long list. They could be end up this kind of long with all the statements. So once you've done that, you'll have understood this message really clearly, and you can do that all in 2 months. I say easily with persistent effort. If you do that for 2 months, take this template and did all of that. Once you do that, then all you need to do is go on the internet and watch some videos where someone's going to do Moses or they're going to do Christ. In fact, you've got all the notes that you need in your booklet. Once you've got all of this template done and you've got all of these verses down, go into your booklet and at the back end it says reform lines, and it will tell you the line of Christ or the line of Moses, and it's not exhaustive number of verses, but it's got most of them. Get this book, cut it up, photocopy it, and do the same thing with the same template, but now you're doing one for Christ, then one for Moses. So by the time you've done that, which shouldn't take you more than a few months, right? It's all in there. It's not exhaustive, but it's got most of the key verses that you need. They Ellen White passages that are going to deal with it. So you've got your template, then you're going to go into the book of Exodus, get all the Bible verses in the book of Exodus and plug them in. Then you're going to get all the statements that are attached to them, plug them in.
You're going too fast.
Oh, sorry. Was the Millerite one okay?
Was that okay?
The Millerite early writings and this book here, they're the two.
Yeah.
Then you go another clean sheet of paper and do Moses' one. Draw your template with Moses.
Let's go very quick.
Then go into your booklet and find the reform line of Moses and watch a video that goes with it. Watch a video that goes with it. Cut and paste all those statements that you've got in your booklet and put them in. And while you do that, the presentation will give you most of the Bible verses that go with it. Then you go to the book of Exodus, which has got most of the Bible verses, and put those verses in the right place. So then you've got a reform line for Moses.
Nearly done.
Before you did Moses' one,
Okay.
and you've done the Millerite one, by the time you've done this, you should be teaching it, Friday. You should be, no, I don't mean you can, you've got the ability, I'm saying you need to go out and start teaching. As soon as you've got this one and this one, you've done that, in fact you'll probably be able to do it just with this, start sharing it and teaching it, and you'll see how much you've learned, how much you've forgotten. Then once you've done that, do the Moses one, use your notes, and most of the verses are going to be found in the book of Exodus. Cut and paste the verses, put them in the right place with the Ellen White quotes, and go and teach that. Once you've done that, you're going to be up there with most of the people who understand this message. Most of the people can't do that. If you make that diligent effort, you'll understand this message really, really well.
Wonderful. So can I please just repeat back what you said?
What do you think? Can you repeat that?
So we get that, we put that on the whiteboard, we read Ellen White, chapter 50, 50, 61, then we, early writings, and then we cut and paste, or we copy and paste all the passages that go with those timeline things there. And then we go to that density, we do the same thing. And then we go to Exodus, Moses.
So once you've done that, so that's all done, then you start a clean sheet of paper, go with your blank template. Don't go to Exodus first.
Don't.
Go to your notes.
Go to my notes.
Go to the Spirit of Prophecy quotes.
Yep. And then go to Exodus.
Because she's going to direct you to most of the verses that you need to do.
Okay.
Because if you go to Exodus, you won't know where to put the verses.
Yeah. And watch a presentation on the
When
line
you're
of
doing it,
Moses.
yes. There must be 10 presentations by about 4 different speakers. You know, I've done it maybe 3 times. But Patrick's probably done it 2 or 3 times more than that.
On Moses.
No,
Patrick's got it on his
no. We've watched it. Sorry, I misunderstood.
So, go to a couple of different speakers. The different speakers, each speaker will have done it 2 or 3 times perhaps. One day you might have had a good day, or someone's asked a particular question, so we give it slightly different. So when I say watch a presentation, you might watch 5 presentations. It's only 5 hours, it's not a lot. And you'll have seen Moses' Reform Line, but create your own one. Put the verses in, and then you've got 2 Reform Lines.
And our presentation takes me a few hours because I have to stop it and go, what? And go, what?
Yeah.
So then you've got 2 reform lines, one of Moses, and what's the other one?
We did Millerite.
Millerite.
Starts with Millerite. Then you do Christ one. By the time you've got that, you'll be fully on board the message. It'll all make sense.
That sounds wonderful.
It's been recorded.
Did you have a nap already?
Did I have a nap?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
And do it again.
So you're not a
You seem bright and cheery.
No, I'll do it.
Yeah.
You're running on what is have food that you're not.
One.
Another one.
What is
I think it's
the
wonderful. Yeah, it is.
So again, what is?
No, it's
Increase of knowledge.
Oh, no, this is excellent.
Something
No,
of
I've never-
increased knowledge.
like, I know I don't know the message question, but this sort of what you know would be just wonderful.
Increase of knowledge.
Good idea, it's a good plan.
Have you ever tried doing Joe?
I've got
Or is
lot
that a
really
different
good ideas.
kettle of fish altogether?
It's not different. It's just a hard kettle of fish.
Have
It's a
you?
what?
I guess
Harder.
hard. I'm not saying harder.
You did it with Ruth and Esther, though, didn't you?
Off the top of your head.
In my opinion, it's binding off.
Yeah.
That's the binding arm.
Yeah.
Do it again.
But you did do it with Ruth and Esther.
Yep.
I'm not feeling confident.
To do what?
This,
To read chapters 55 to 61.
yeah, just thinking about it,
Just reading 7 chapters.
oh, it's not so much reading
Brother
7
Patrick,
chapters,
could you,
it's just about,
Could you just pull one up and do one for them?
Yeah.
Just one sentence or one paragraph or whatever.
Yeah.
Give us the page number and show us how you do it.
Can we have a small break?
It's 6:30. If you just do this, then we can stop for the day.
We can just call it a day. Yeah, a bit early.
My sister's saying she feels a bit intimidated doing this. So Brother Patrick's going to go to 55 to 61. He's going to pick up a random page, and he's just going to do one.
wonderful,
Show it,
wonderful.
that'd be good.
So that's formalised, that after talking to the end, and
Empowered.
then that's empowered,
Foundation,
and then that's foundation.
and it's the work of the enemies.
Show me
Is
the
it midnight, or is it midnight not go on the...
Show me the
Yeah, we'll
Does
probably
midnight not go on the standard template?
No,
Okay.
that's a bit of an advanced study.
Okay.
In fact, when you go to the Millerite reform line in your booklet,
hey,
Yeah.
many verses that say, you know, an angel came down at this point and this point are from these chapters. When it says like,
Should we do one?
Can I
Let's do one.
You've got COP instead of SL. Is that right? You've just got...
Because close of probation is a generic term.
Yeah.
Sunday law is specific.
Yeah.
There's no Sunday law in the time of Moses or Christ. It's a generic term.
You should print up some basic templates that you hand out for people when they've reached the end of the seminary. Send them home.
page 17,
Basic template.
There's your
They can
template,
read.
off you go. What's 17?
17,
I
18,
don't mean make it.
Let's go to page 17 in your notes. Not the first page 17, the back end of it.
17 in your notes, yep.
Sandra,
Patrick,
I'm not answering
yeah.
on the bottom, the second to the last quotes, from there it's like 1, 2, 3, 4,
1 second.
5 quotes in a row from these.
One second, she's not up.
17 to 18. Yeah.
So, what page are we on?
17 and
Page
18.
17,
Page 17.
second to the last quote.
Zero need to be
Disappointment
there.
carrying.
So if you read that, Sister Sandra, is that the one you're going to read?
Yeah, I just want to say there are now 5 quotes in a row, all taken from these chapters.
So if you read out that first quote that he's pointed out.
the one that starts, second angel arrives?
The one above it. Above that, yeah.
43.
Okay.
Or you choose one. You can also read the next one.
We got it. We got it.
She did what?
Take the bottom one.
I'll do it again.
No, take the first one where it says disappointment.
Yeah, okay.
Just read it.
What,
Joe?
you want me to read it
Yeah,
aloud?
just read it loud.
Those faithful disappointed ones who could not understand why their Lord did not come were not left in darkness. Again, they were led to their Bibles to search the prophetic periods. The hand of the Lord was removed from the figures and the mistake was explained. They saw that the prophetic periods reached to 1844 and that the same evidence which they had presented to show that the prophetic periods closed in 1843 proved that they would terminate in 1844. Light from the Word of God shone upon their position and they discovered a tarrying time. Though it, the vision, tarried, wait for it. Okay. In their love for Christ's immediate coming, they had overlooked the tarrying of the vision, which was calculated to manifest the true waiting ones. Again, they had a point of time. Yet I saw that many of them could not rise above their severe disappointment to possess that degree of zeal and energy which had marked their faith in 1843. And I know I read that too fast because I know there's lots and lots of things.
That's fine. On this line here, where would you put that?
So it's done now. Say it done. We're gonna do it, okay?
So you know they're disappointed,
Yeah.
but you know you're not up to 1844 yet, because you haven't got to 1844. You haven't got to the termination point.
I don't know how I would start. I don't know where I would start.
What are you doing then?
So we'll have to read it a bit slower.
Yes.
Would you know where to start?
Those faithful disappointed ones who could not understand why their Lord did not come were not left in darkness. Again they were led to the Bibles to search the prophetic period. The hand of the Lord was removed from the figures and the mistake was explained. So he talks about the mistake. What is the mistake that they've made?
The numbers.
But what is it?
1843
To
1844.
Okay, so the mistake must be not down here. This isn't this period because it says they've discovered their mistake.
Okay.
When did they discover the mistake?
Well, at the end.
After the mistake has been made.
Yeah.
So when did they make the mistake? Because they think it's coming in what year?
1843.
So if I put a date here, this was 42. This is 44. 44 and 44. This is April, August, and October.
Nanny.
So it can't be back here because they've just found the mistake. And the mistake is right here because they think Christ is going to come in this year here of 1843. But they've made a mistake because he's going to come in the year 1844. So it might take a bit of work to do, but that's how you go about doing it. You pick up these points. It says the hand of the Lord was removed from the figures and the mistake was explained. They saw that the prophetic period reached to 1844, not 1843.
Say it done, okay?
And then he quotes you back at chapter 2, verses 3. And it says, again they had a point of time, yet I saw many of them who could not rise above their severe disappointment to possess that degree of zeal and energy which had marked their faith in 1843. So they haven't got the zeal that they had, indicating that they're going to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the tarrying time. They're going to sleep and the mistake's been explained. All of those characteristics are right here. Some of them are easier than others to deal with. But if you'd watched the presentation and you'd actually laid all of this out and grappled with it a bit for yourself first, if you watch someone do it, it will click straight away.
Okay.
But what happens is if you do it just sitting passively and take it, it goes in and one ear and mostly comes out the other. But if we try to grapple with it and think about it first, and you say, oh, I can't work it out what it is, but you know what you're thinking about, you know what you're looking for, then email, ask somebody, what's your presentation? Say, where does that go? And they say it goes there. As soon as they show you where it goes, it'll all click into place because you've been already looking at it.
Yeah, but how long does that take? I mean,
Can I say,
yes.
William
Quicker.
has got all our details, so you can ask any of us.
Yep.
Any of us.
Thank you.
So
How long-
Marie's quite open to that, if you want.
How long does it take?
No.
The blind can ask the blind.
Sanctification is a work of a lifetime. So it's going to take the rest of your mortal life. The question is, how much price do you want to pay for it? Because if you step back all the way from all the details, we're saying this is the everlasting gospel, and you have to accept this message or face the consequences of it. So the question is, not how long does it take, is how much effort do we want to make to be saved?
Yeah, I'm hearing that.
So it's the same question, the same problem, but depending how you phrase it, it becomes a heavy burden or it becomes an opportunity for life. And I want to make it sound positive, that it's actually exciting and interesting, because you're going to do Bible study anyway, aren't you?
Yeah.
Everybody does Bible study. The question is, how you're going to study and what you're going to study. And so I'm saying this is a really nice, interesting Bible study compared to Bible study X. So if you did, I don't know what your devotions are. If you do 45 an hour in the morning, 45 an hour in the evening, that's an hour and a half a day. An hour and a half a day by a week, that's 10 hours of study. 10 hours of study, you should be able to start getting the grip of this thing. So you're struggling with that one passage, go and watch your presentation. It'll give you the answer for that one. Go to the next one and don't watch the video straight away. Wrestle with it first. Within 10 hours, you'll get most of that down. So within a week. And I don't think a week's that long.
Can I just say, I think too, don't you think it's, if you focus on the fact that there's so much, if you focus on the fact that there's so much information, it can be overwhelming, and you think, how on earth am I ever going to understand any of it? But if, like, you do what is being suggested, and you just think, okay, I'm just going to work on this, because it's only a matter of making a start. As you make a start, things become clearer. It's like anything you do that you haven't really done before. When you start, it's a little bit, a little bit challenging maybe, or it's, depending on how hard it is, etc. But as you go along, you get the hang of it a bit more, and then it becomes a bit easier. And it's not a matter of all of a sudden you've got to be able to know everything out of all of it. You just have to start to know a little bit, and as you know a little bit and you can share a little bit, then you're actually doing what God has asked you to do. He's not going to say, okay, well, time's up, you didn't make it, sorry, you didn't quite learn it all, and you didn't actually tell everybody everything, so therefore you can't pass. The fact is, when the time is up, if you are doing that work, even if you're just starting it, correct me if I'm wrong, then you're doing that work. You don't have to necessarily just be able to think, oh, well, how long is it going to take me to do all that? It doesn't really matter, because